I am Patrice Walker, 28 years old, sitting in a plush leather chair in my Uncle Harold's lawyer's office. The mahogany grandfather clock ticks loudly as I watch my parents enter the room for the first time in 15 years. Amanda and Frank Walker strut in wearing designer outfits, flashing diamond watches and smug smiles. They barely acknowledge me as they take seats across the table, whispering and smirking while eyeing the thick folder marked Last Will and Testament. They have no idea what is coming. If you are watching this and have ever been betrayed by family, let me know where you are watching from and subscribe for more stories of justice served. Growing up, our family lived in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of Boston. Money was always tight. My father, Frank, worked 3 jobs at one point: daytime construction, evening security guard, and weekend shifts at a gas station. Despite his efforts, bill collectors called constantly. The electricity got shut off twice during one particularly harsh winter when I was 9. My mother, Amanda, on the other hand, seemed oblivious to our financial reality. She insisted on maintaining appearances, buying clothes she could not afford, and hosting dinner parties that strained our budget further. "We need to network with the right people," she would say while applying makeup before one of her social gatherings. "This is how we will escape this neighborhood." Their arguments about money formed the soundtrack of my childhood. I would hide in my small bedroom pillows over my ears, trying to focus on library books instead of their shouting matches. School became my sanctuary, a place with rules, structure, and predictability that my home life lacked. When I turned 10, things deteriorated rapidly. Dad lost his construction job after the company downsized. His drinking, which had always been present, became a daily ritual. Mom maxed out 3 credit cards buying a designer handbag collection and took out payday loans to cover basic expenses. The tension in our apartment was suffocating. "You are just like your brother," Dad would yell at Mom during their worst fights. "Acting like you deserve everything without working for it." That was the first time I learned about Uncle Harold. My mother's brother, who had moved to California years before I was born and built a successful tech company. They rarely spoke, and he was never mentioned in our house, except during these heated arguments. Despite the chaos at home, I threw myself into academics. My 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Lancaster, noticed my aptitude for mathematics and stayed after school to give me advanced problems. Those quiet afternoons solving equations provided rare moments of peace in my turbulent life. Uncle Harold entered my life unexpectedly on my 12th birthday. A package arrived containing a leather-bound collection of classic novels and a card signed simply, "From your Uncle Harold. Keep reading, keep learning." Mom seemed annoyed by the gift but allowed me to keep it. Dad muttered something about Harold showing off again. 6 months later, Uncle Harold visited Boston for a business conference and asked to meet me. My parents reluctantly agreed to dinner at an upscale restaurant downtown. I remember being intimidated by his quiet confidence and intelligent eyes that seemed to assess everything. Unlike my parents, he asked me questions about school and what subjects interested me. He listened attentively to my answers. "You have a good mind, Patrice," he told me, as he slipped me his business card before leaving. "If you ever need anything, call me." Mom and Dad were unusually quiet on the drive home. I later overheard them arguing about Uncle Harold's condescending charity and acting superior just because he got lucky in business. The summer I turned 13, everything imploded. Dad lost his security job after showing up intoxicated. Mom received final notices on all credit accounts. Their fighting escalated from verbal to occasionally physical. Dishes thrown, doors slammed, walls punched. I became invisible in my own home, tiptoeing around their rage and despair. One August morning, Mom woke me earlier than usual. "Pack a bag, Patrice. Just essentials for a couple weeks." "Where are we going?" I asked, confused by their sudden energy and the suitcases by the door. "Your father and I need to restart," Mom explained vaguely. "We are taking you to stay with Uncle Harold while we sort things out." The cross-country flight to California passed in uncomfortable silence. Dad drank miniature whiskeys, while Mom flipped nervously through a magazine. Neither would answer my increasingly anxious questions. Uncle Harold's surprise was evident when we arrived unannounced at his sprawling Palo Alto mansion. Nevertheless, he welcomed us graciously, showing me to a guest room with its own bathroom, luxuries I had never experienced. 2 weeks, my father told Uncle Harold gruffly, just until we secure new opportunities back east. That evening, Uncle Harold ordered pizza and tried to make awkward conversation while my parents exchanged meaningful glances. After I went to bed, I heard raised voices from downstairs, but couldn't make out the words. The next morning, my parents left early. Mom hugged me stiffly, promising to call every day. Dad patted my shoulder and mumbled something about being good. They departed in a taxi, leaving me with a virtual stranger. Uncle Harold enrolled me in the local school, bought me clothes and supplies, and established simple household rules. Each day, I waited for my parents' call. Each night, I fell asleep, disappointed. 2 weeks later, the call finally came. I was doing homework in the sunroom when Uncle Harold entered, his expression grave. "Patrice, your parents are on the phone," he said softly. I grabbed the receiver eagerly. "Mom, when are you coming to get me?" A long pause followed before my mother's voice came through, unnaturally bright. "Sweetie, there has been a change of plans. Your father and I need more time to get established. We think it would be best if you stayed with Uncle Harold for the school year." The whole year, my voice cracked. Another pause. "Actually, honey, we are not coming back. Uncle Harold can give you opportunities we never could. This is for the best." The phone slipped from my fingers. Uncle Harold caught it, exchanged a few terse words with my mother, then hung up. He sat beside me, his hand hovering uncertainly over my shoulder. "They left me," I whispered, the reality crashing down. "They just left me." That night I cried until physically exhausted, convinced I had done something terrible to make my own parents discard me so easily. I was 13 years old, abandoned in a strange city with an uncle I barely knew, wondering what fundamental flaw made me so unlovable. The first months living with Uncle Harold were awkward for both of us. He was a bachelor in his 50s who had lived alone for decades, suddenly responsible for a traumatized teenage girl. I was shell-shocked, moving through days mechanically, expecting him to tire of me and send me away too. Uncle Harold hired a decorator to transform the guest room into my permanent bedroom, letting me choose colors and furniture. The results, lavender walls, window seat, and bookshelves, created the first space that felt truly mine. His housekeeper, Mabel Torres, a grandmother with warm brown eyes and nimble hands, took me under her wing immediately. "That man never learned to cook anything but eggs and toast," she confided while teaching me to make tamales in the spacious kitchen. "But he has a good heart, you will see." Uncle Harold ran his technology company from a home office, emerging periodically for coffee or to check my homework. He spoke little, but observed much. When he discovered my interest in mathematics, he arranged for advanced tutoring. When I expressed curiosity about his work, he began inviting me into his office after school, explaining concepts of software development and business strategy. "Understanding money gives you freedom," he told me one evening. "Not to waste it like some people, but to have options." I knew he meant my parents, though he rarely mentioned them directly. Neither did I. The wound was too raw. Only once did I ask if he had heard from them. "They call occasionally," he admitted, "but they have their own challenges to address." He never asked if I wanted to speak with them. I never volunteered. By 14, I had settled into a new routine. My academic performance earned me a spot in advanced placement classes. Uncle Harold attended every parent-teacher conference, science fair, and math competition, sitting quietly in the back but always present. When I received academic achievement awards, his subtle nod of approval meant more than any loud cheering. Mabel became the grandmother I never had, teaching me cooking, sharing stories from her native Mexico, and providing feminine guidance. Uncle Harold could not. She lived in the guest house on weekdays, creating a small but stable family unit for me. "Some people think family must be blood," she told me while braiding my hair for a school dance. "But family is who stays when the storm comes." At 15, Uncle Harold established a bank account in my name, depositing a modest allowance and matching any earnings from babysitting jobs. He insisted I track expenses in a ledger, teaching basic financial management. Money is just a tool, he would remind me, not a measure of worth. Through high school, I excelled academically while working through emotional scars with a therapist. Uncle Harold quietly arranged. Abandonment issues and trust problems emerged in relationships with friends and potential boyfriends. I maintained high walls, afraid to depend on anyone who might leave. Uncle Harold never pushed for emotional conversations, but his consistent presence slowly rebuilt my sense of security. End of section. He never missed a dinner unless traveling for business, and even then would call precisely at 6:30 to check in. His reliability became my anchor. During my junior year, we established a Sunday tradition of visiting different Bay Area cultural attractions, museums, botanical gardens, historical sites. Uncle Harold would research each location, meticulously sharing interesting facts as we explored. These outings revealed his hidden enthusiasm for art, architecture, and natural history. The quiet man who seemed so reserved actually possessed deep passions and knowledge he had never had occasion to share. "Your presence has improved my life, Patrice," he told me on my 17th birthday, awkwardly handing me keys to a sensible used sedan. "I hope you know that." College application season arrived with Uncle Harold's characteristic thoroughness. He hired a consultant to identify programs matching my strengths in mathematics and computer science, but insisted final choices remained mine. When acceptance letters arrived from several prestigious universities, including Stanford and MIT, he arranged campus visits for both of us. "Your education is an investment no one can take from you," he said as we toured facilities. "Choose where you will thrive, not just academically." I selected the University of California, Berkeley, close enough to maintain our weekend traditions while establishing independence. Uncle Harold helped me move into the dormitory, arranged my books on shelves, and left without lingering, understanding my need to begin this new chapter without his shadow. During winter break of my sophomore year, Uncle Harold received his first cancer diagnosis, stage 2, pancreatic cancer requiring immediate surgery followed by aggressive treatment. I wanted to withdraw from school to care for him, but he categorically refused. "Your education comes first," he insisted from his hospital bed. "Mabel will help me. You focus on your studies." I compromised by reducing my course load and commuting from home 3 days weekly. During his chemotherapy sessions, I would sit beside him reading aloud from his favorite historical biographies while he dozed. In those quiet hospital rooms, our bond deepened beyond guardian and ward. Between treatments, Uncle Harold began sharing more about his life philosophy and business ethics. He described early failures, lessons learned, and principles that guided his decisions. He spoke of integrity as non-negotiable and treating people with dignity regardless of their position. "Success without character is meaningless," he told me during one late-night conversation when pain kept him awake. "Remember that when you build your own career." After 8 months of treatment, doctors declared him in remission. Life resumed its rhythm, though. Uncle Harold seemed more intentional about his time and legacy. He invited me to shadow him at his company during summer breaks, introducing me to key personnel and business operations. He established a small foundation supporting educational opportunities for underprivileged students, involving me in grant reviews and decision-making. By my senior year at Berkeley, I had developed my own passion for financial technology and its potential to create economic opportunity. Uncle Harold quietly supported my vision, connecting me with mentors and resources while allowing me to find my path. Our relationship had evolved into a partnership of mutual respect and genuine affection that transcended the circumstances of its beginning. "You have overcome much to get here," he said at my graduation ceremony, uncharacteristically emotional. "I am proud to have witnessed it." Neither of us mentioned the empty seats where parents would typically sit. We had become family without needing those labels. The first contact from my parents came midway through my sophomore year at Berkeley. An email appeared in my university account with the subject line, "Thinking of you, Mom." I stared at it for hours before opening it with trembling hands. "Dearest Patrice," it began, "I hope this message finds you well. Your father and I have been following your achievements from afar and are so proud of the young woman you have become. We know we made mistakes and hurt you deeply. We were going through difficult circumstances you could not understand at the time. We would love to reconnect and explain everything. Also, we are in a temporary financial situation and could use some assistance if possible. Please respond when you can. Love always, Mom. The message unleashed a tornado of emotions. Anger, confusion, yearning, and suspicion swirling together. That evening, I drove to Uncle Harold's house and showed him the email. What do you think I should do? I asked, hating how young and uncertain my voice sounded. Uncle Harold considered the screen carefully. What do you want to do, Patrice? I do not know, I admitted. Part of me wants answers. Another part never wants to hear from them again. You do not owe them a response, he said gently. Whatever choice you make, I support you. After several days of deliberation, I chose not to reply. The vague apology coupled with an immediate request for money suggested their motivations remained unchanged. The wound had scabbed over. Picking at it seemed unwise. Several months passed before the next attempt. Phone calls from unknown numbers that I initially ignored. When I finally answered one, my mother's voice came through artificially bright. Patrice, thank goodness. We have been trying to reach you for weeks. Did you get my email? I got it, I replied coolly. Oh, her disappointment was palpable. Well, we really would love to see you. We have been following your college career online. Those mathematics awards are impressive. The revelation that they had been monitoring my social media and university achievements unsettled me. I had not posted my academic honors publicly, meaning they had been actively searching for information about me. How did you know about those? I asked. Oh, we have our ways, she laughed nervously. Parents always keep tabs on their children. You stopped being parents when you abandoned me at 13, I replied, surprising myself with the calm fury in my voice before hanging up. More calls followed, then social media connection requests from both parents. I blocked their numbers and accounts but could not shake the feeling of being watched. When I mentioned this to Uncle Harold during Sunday dinner, his expression darkened momentarily. Have they asked about me? He inquired casually. Not directly, I answered, but Mom mentioned knowing I live with you during breaks. Uncle Harold nodded thoughtfully but changed the subject. Later that week, I noticed him taking phone calls behind closed doors and speaking with his lawyer, Gerald Thompson, who visited the house twice. Unusual for Uncle Harold, who typically conducted business at his office. By spring semester of my senior year, the contact attempts escalated. My father sent a lengthy email explaining they had hit rock bottom after leaving me, but had rebuilt their lives in Florida. They wanted to reunite our family and make amends. The email included mentions of Uncle Harold's company and its recent expansion. Information available only through financial news sources, not casual observation. The pattern became clear. My parents' renewed interest correlated with Uncle Harold's increasing public profile as his company prepared for acquisition by a larger tech firm. The deal, worth several $100 million, had been featured in business publications. I shared my suspicions with Mabel, while helping her prepare dinner one evening. Vultures circle when they smell money, she muttered, chopping onions with increased vigor. Your uncle sees it too. The final confirmation came at my graduation ceremony. I had just received my diploma and was walking back to my seat when I spotted them in the audience. My parents, older but unmistakable, clapping enthusiastically as though they had supported my journey all along. Uncle Harold, seated in the family section I had arranged, noticed them too, his expression unreadable. After the ceremony, they approached us outside the auditorium. My mother wore an expensive dress and too much jewelry. My father had lost weight and sported an artificial tan that looked odd with his reddish hair. Patrice, sweetheart, Mom rushed forward to embrace me. I stood stiffly in her arms, inhaling unfamiliar perfume. We are so proud of you, summa cum laude. Dad shook my hand awkwardly. Congratulations, kiddo. Always knew you were smart. Then they turned to Uncle Harold, all smiles and false warmth. Harold, you are looking well, Mom gushed air, kissing his cheeks. The treatments must have worked wonders. I froze. I had never told them about Uncle Harold's cancer. Amanda, Frank, Uncle Harold acknowledged them with a slight nod. This is a day to celebrate Patrice's achievements. Absolutely, Dad agreed enthusiastically. We thought maybe we could all go to dinner. Family reunion and celebration combined. I have reservations for Patrice and myself, Uncle Harold replied smoothly. Perhaps another time. As we walked away, I glanced back to see my parents huddled together, speaking intently while watching us. "How did they know about your cancer?" I asked once we were in the car. "They have been more attentive to my circumstances than you might imagine," he replied carefully. "Their timing has always been interesting." That summer, Uncle Harold's cancer returned more aggressive than before. As I helped him navigate treatment options, my parents suddenly offered their assistance with his care. "We could come stay at the house," Mom suggested during an unexpected phone call. "Family should stick together during difficult times." Uncle Harold refused politely but firmly. "Patrice and Mabel have everything well managed," he told them, "but thank you for the offer." Late one evening, as I sat with Uncle Harold on the patio watching stars appear over the bay, he broached the subject directly for the first time. "Your parents have been in contact with me periodically over the years," he admitted. "Initially seeking money, later information about my business ventures." "Why did you never tell me?" I asked. "You were healing," he replied simply. "I saw no benefit in reopening wounds." He explained that Amanda and Frank had approached him several times during my teenage years, ostensibly about reconnecting with me, but inevitably steering conversations toward financial matters. He had offered to facilitate communication if I expressed interest, but refused financial support beyond what he had initially provided when they left me. "I believe people must face the consequences of their choices," he said quietly. "Not to punish them, but because growth requires accountability." As his health deteriorated, Uncle Harold spent more time with his lawyer. I would find them reviewing documents in his study, conversations ceasing when I entered. When I questioned him, he simply patted my hand. "Everything is arranged," he assured me. "You need not worry." The night Uncle Harold died remains crystal clear in my memory. We had spent the evening looking through old photographs. Him as a young entrepreneur, me at various school events, the two of us at landmarks across California. His breathing had become labored, but his mind remained sharp. "Family is not always blood," he told me, echoing Mabel's wisdom from years before. "Remember that, Patrice." By morning he was gone, peacefully in his sleep, having lived exactly as he chose until the end. In the months before his death, Uncle Harold had methodically prepared for his departure. He had shown me where important documents were stored, introduced me to his financial advisors, and updated his medical directives. What he had not shared were the details of his will or his suspicions about my parents' intentions. "Some things are better handled when the time comes," he told me cryptically during one of our last coherent conversations. After his passing, I assumed responsibility for funeral arrangements, according to the detailed instructions he had left. He wanted a small, dignified service without excessive displays of grief. "Celebrate what was not what is lost," his notes specified. While managing these details, I received a flurry of messages from my parents expressing condolences and offering help. Their sudden availability after years of minimal contact struck me as calculating rather than compassionate. "We can be there tomorrow," my mother said during a call, "to help with arrangements and everything else that needs handling." "Everything is under control," I responded. "The service is Saturday at 2. Has there been any mention of the will reading?" my father asked, attempting casual indifference. "Gerald will handle that after the funeral," I answered, noting how quickly their concerns shifted from Uncle Harold to his assets. The day before the service, Gerald Thompson visited me at the house. Tall and silver-haired, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, he had been Uncle Harold's lawyer and friend for over 30 years. "Your uncle was a remarkable man," Gerald said as we sat in the study. "Very few people knew the full extent of his generosity." He explained that Uncle Harold had established numerous anonymous scholarships and funded medical research without publicity. Several small businesses in the community had received startup capital from him without knowing the source. Former employees facing hardship found mysterious financial assistance just when needed most. "He believed wealth created obligation," Gerald continued, "but never wanted recognition for fulfilling that obligation." Learning these new dimensions of Uncle Harold's character provided comfort during grief. He had lived his values quietly but consistently, a stark contrast to my parents' vocal aspirations and minimal action. The funeral service took place at a small non-denominational chapel overlooking the Pacific. About 50 people attended: business associates, employees, charity representatives, and neighbors. Uncle Harold had requested no eulogy, just readings of favorite literary passages and classical music. My parents arrived 20 minutes late, causing heads to turn as they made their entrance. Mother wore a designer black dress with conspicuous diamond earrings. Father sported an expensive suit with gold cufflinks. They positioned themselves prominently in the front row opposite mine, performing grief with dramatic sighs and dab of eyes. Throughout the service, I noticed them studying the attendees, particularly those in business attire. During the reception afterward, they worked the room like networkers at a conference, exchanging cards and engaging Uncle Harold's wealthier associates in conversation. "Your uncle mentioned plans to expand into Asian markets," I overheard my father saying to the CEO of a partner company. I was advising him on currency exchange issues. The fabrication stunned me. Uncle Harold had barely spoken to my father in 15 years, let alone sought his financial advice. When they eventually approached me, their expressions shifted to practice sympathy. "Darling, you must be exhausted," Mother said, embracing me. "Why not let us handle things from here? You should rest." "Everything is managed," I replied. "Gerald has been very helpful." At mention of the lawyer, they exchanged quick glances. "Gerald mentioned the will reading next Thursday," Father said, "at his office downtown." "Yes, I know," I confirmed, noting they had clearly sought this information independently. "We will be there to support you," Mother assured me, squeezing my hand. Family needs to stick together at times like these. After they departed, Mabel approached me, eyes narrowed. "Those two are up to something," she muttered. "Your uncle knew it too." During the week between the funeral and will reading, my parents called daily with increasingly transparent questions about Uncle Harold's assets. Had he mentioned specific bequests? Were there investment accounts besides the company holdings? Had I seen any documents regarding property in other states? "Gerald handles all those matters," I repeatedly deflected. On Tuesday, I overheard them in the garden speaking when they thought no one was listening. "The estate must be worth 50 million minimum," my father was saying. "The house alone is 7 or 8, if she gets control." "She is young and inexperienced," my mother replied. "She will need guidance managing such wealth. That is where we come in. If Harold left everything to charitable trusts, we could contest based on family obligation," he continued. "Either way, we need to position ourselves carefully." I slipped away, unnoticed, stomach churning with disgust. Their reunion attempt had nothing to do with reconciliation. It was purely financial opportunism. That evening, I found myself in Uncle Harold's study, surrounded by books and mementos of our life together. A photograph on his desk showed us at my college orientation, his hand resting proudly on my shoulder. Whatever inheritance came my way seemed insignificant compared to what he had already given me: stability, education, and unconditional support when my own parents had offered none. "I will make you proud," I whispered to his empty chair. "Whatever happens." Thursday morning arrived with clear skies and unusual August coolness. I dressed conservatively in a navy suit Uncle Harold had helped me select for job interviews. His voice seemed to echo in my memory. "Appearance signals seriousness of purpose, not through flash but through quality." I arrived at Gerald Thompson's downtown office 30 minutes early, preferring to gather my thoughts before facing my parents. The reception area featured understated luxury, leather furniture, original artwork, and fresh flowers in crystal vases. Gerald greeted me personally, leading me to a conference room with views of the bay. "How are you holding up?" he asked kindly. "Managing," I replied. "Though I am concerned about my parents' expectations." Gerald's expression revealed nothing. "Your uncle anticipated various reactions to his decisions. Trust that." He prepared accordingly. Other attendees arrived gradually. Uncle Harold's business partner, Thomas Chen, the director of his educational foundation, Dr. Eleanor Blackwell Mabel, and 2 junior lawyers from Gerald's firm. My parents were the last to enter 15 minutes late, making a production of their arrival. Mother wore a Chanel suit with pearl accessories. Father carried a leather portfolio that looked new and expensive. They had arrived in a rented Mercedes, which they mentioned loudly while entering. Their confidence bordered on smugness as they took seats opposite me, nodding condescendingly to other attendees. "Thank you all for coming," Gerald began formally. "We are gathered to execute the last will and testament of Harold James Montgomery." He reviewed standard legal preliminaries while my parents shifted impatiently. Mother checked her watch twice. Father drummed fingers on his portfolio. Their anticipation was almost predatory. Before proceeding with specific bequests, Gerald continued, "I should note that Harold's estate is valued at approximately $53 million, including property holdings, investment portfolios, and business interests." My father inhaled sharply. My mother's eyes widened. They exchanged triumphant glances, barely containing their excitement. Harold requested a personal message be shared at this juncture. Gerald announced, activating a screen on the conference room wall. Uncle Harold's face appeared recorded several months earlier. Though clearly ill, his eyes remained sharp and intelligent. "If you are viewing this," he began, "I have completed my journey. I wish to explain certain decisions personally rather than through legal language alone." He spoke briefly about his business philosophy and hopes for his foundation's future. Then his tone shifted slightly. "Regarding family matters," he continued, "I have always believed true family transcends biology. 15 years ago, my sister Amanda and her husband Frank made a choice that altered many lives. They left their 13-year-old daughter Patrice in my care, initially temporarily, then permanently." My parents stiffened in their chairs. "While unexpected, this circumstance brought immeasurable joy to my life," Uncle Harold continued. "Patrice became the daughter of my heart, bringing purpose and companionship I never anticipated experiencing." His gaze seemed to intensify. "Amanda and Frank, I know you are present. While I harbor no ill will for your decision regarding Patrice, I cannot overlook your subsequent actions. My private investigator documented 27 attempts over 15 years to extract financial benefits from me while maintaining minimal contact with your daughter." Mother's face flushed. Father loosened his tie uncomfortably. "More concerning," Uncle Harold continued, "are your recent activities coinciding with news of my illness and company valuation. Attempted loan applications using falsified documents claiming interest in my estate. Credit applications listing my properties as collateral without authorization. Insurance policies taken out speculating on my death." Gerald paused the video, turning to face my increasingly pale parents. For clarity, he interjected, "We have compiled extensive documentation of these activities." He slid folders toward them containing paper trails of their various schemes. Gerald resumed the video. Uncle Harold's expression had softened slightly. "I understand desperation drives questionable decisions," he continued. "However, my primary concern remains protecting those who demonstrated genuine care and commitment." My father began perspiring visibly. My mother's confident posture had collapsed entirely. "What is he talking about?" she demanded, voice shrill. "These are baseless accusations." Gerald paused the video again. "Would you like to see the evidence regarding your attempt last year to claim custodial rights to Patrice, solely to access trust funds you believed existed?" The blood drained from my mother's face. Father placed a restraining hand on her arm. "Or perhaps," Gerald continued calmly, "the recorded conversation with a potential lender stating you expected to receive at least $20 million from your brother's estate, which you planned to use as loan collateral." "You cannot prove any of this," Father blustered, though his voice lacked conviction. "Harold hired the best." Gerald replied, simply resuming the video. Uncle Harold's recorded image continued speaking. "The original abandonment of Patrice was not as presented for her benefit or education. Documents show it occurred immediately after I refused to provide $200,000 to cover gambling debts and credit defaults. Leaving Patrice was apparently intended as retribution, though it ultimately benefited all parties except Amanda and Frank." I sat perfectly still, absorbing this revelation. The abandonment that had shaped my adolescence, my fundamental belief I was somehow unlovable, had been nothing more than financial revenge against Uncle Harold. The knowledge was simultaneously devastating and liberating. Gerald dimmed the lights as Uncle Harold's recorded testimony continued. The conference room felt charged with tension. My parents' mounting horror contrasted with the calm professionalism of the other attendees. My investigator's report spans 15 years, Uncle Harold explained on screen. It documents a pattern of behaviors including multiple identity fraud attempts, credit card schemes, and investment scams across 3 states. Most relevant to today's proceedings are recent activities targeting my estate. A series of documents appeared alongside Uncle Harold's image. Loan applications, legal correspondence, and surveillance photographs, showing my parents meeting with questionable financial advisors. 6 months ago, Uncle Harold continued. Amanda and Frank approached 3 separate elder law attorneys seeking information about contesting wills and establishing conservatorship over relatives with terminal illnesses. They claimed concern about my mental capacity, despite having no contact with me for over a decade. Mother made a small choking sound. Father stared at the floor, shoulders hunched defensively. Most disturbing, Uncle Harold's voice continued steadily, was their attempt 3 months ago to fabricate documents suggesting prior financial promises to them. These forgeries, while amateur, demonstrate clear intent to defraud my estate. The screen showed loan applications containing poorly mimicked signatures alongside Uncle Harold's actual signature for comparison. The differences were obvious even to untrained eyes. I share this not from vengeance, Uncle Harold clarified, but to explain decisions that might otherwise seem harsh. I have always believed in second chances balanced with accountability. The video paused and Gerald rose again. Before continuing with specific bequest details, Harold wanted to address Amanda and Frank directly. The recording resumed with Uncle Harold looking directly at the camera. Amanda, Frank, I forgive the past. Your decision regarding Patrice ultimately enriched my life immeasurably. However, forgiveness does not negate consequences. Your recent actions demonstrate priorities and values incompatible with responsible wealth management. Mother's carefully applied makeup had begun to streak with tears, whether from genuine emotion or calculation remained unclear. Father sat motionless, defeat evident in his posture. Now to the actual terms, Gerald announced, consulting the formal document before him. To Amanda and Frank Walker, Harold establishes a modest trust fund, providing $5,000 monthly for life conditional upon first, no contestation of any aspect of this will, second, completion of financial management and gambling addiction counseling, third, annual review of financial activities by the trust administrator. $5,000, Mother whispered incredulously. Monthly. From $53 million. The primary estate, Gerald continued without acknowledging her outburst, comprising the residential property investment portfolios and controlling interest in Montgomery Technologies, transfers to Patrice Walker with specific provisions for educational advancement and charitable foundation management. My parents' expressions transformed from shock to outrage. Father slammed his portfolio onto the conference table. "This is unconscionable," he shouted. His own sister gets virtually nothing. While an adopted child takes everything, we will contest this immediately. Gerald appeared entirely unruffled. Regarding contestation, he noted calmly. Harold anticipated this reaction. Should you proceed with legal challenges, all evidence of potentially criminal financial activities will be submitted to relevant authorities in California, Florida, and Massachusetts. The trust provision would also convert to a one-time payment of $50,000 total, with no ongoing support. The threat hung in the air like heavy smoke. Father's face cycled through emotions, anger, calculation, and finally something resembling panic. "You cannot blackmail us," Mother attempted, though her voice wavered. "This is not blackmail," Gerald corrected. "It is a clear presentation of consequences for specific actions." Harold hoped you would accept his generosity despite your history. $5,000 monthly for life represents significant support considering the circumstances. "We are his family," Mother protested, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "Blood relatives." "Family is defined by actions, not genetics," Gerald replied with unexpected gentleness. Harold believed this deeply. My parents huddled together, whispering urgently. Their formerly confident demeanor had crumbled, entirely revealing the desperate schemers beneath designer clothing and practiced smiles. "We need time to consider options," Father finally announced. Of course, Gerald agreed. The trust documents require signatures within 30 days to activate monthly payments. After that, the default one-time settlement applies. As the meeting concluded, other attendees received their more modest bequests. Retirement funds for Mabel, business transitions for Thomas, expanded endowment for Dr. Blackwell's foundation work. Throughout these discussions, my parents remained silent, shell-shocked by the systematic dismantling of their plans. When Gerald finally closed his portfolio, indicating the proceedings had concluded, my parents rose stiffly, without making eye contact with anyone. "This is not over," Father muttered as they passed my chair. "Actually, Frank," Gerald interjected. "Harold specifically intended this to represent closure, a clean ending allowing everyone to move forward appropriately. I strongly recommend accepting these terms." They departed without further comment, their rented Mercedes speeding away from the curb with squealing tires. A final petulant gesture against circumstances they could not control. After my parents stormed out, an unexpected calm settled over me. The revelations should have been devastating. Confirmation that my abandonment had been nothing more than financial retaliation, evidence of years of schemes targeting Uncle Harold, proof that their recent reunion attempts were purely mercenary. Instead, I felt oddly liberated. "Are you all right?" Mabel asked, her weathered hand covering mine. "Surprisingly, yes," I answered truthfully. "It feels like a weight has lifted." Gerald invited me to stay after others departed. In his private office, he produced a sealed envelope with my name written in Uncle Harold's distinctive handwriting. "He asked me to give you this privately," Gerald explained. "Take your time." The letter inside expressed what Uncle Harold had struggled to verbalize during life: his profound gratitude for my presence, his admiration for my resilience, and his absolute confidence in my future. He acknowledged the pain my parents had caused but urged compassion without compromising boundaries. "Their limitations do not define your potential," he wrote. "Remember that hurt people often hurt others. This understanding brings freedom without requiring their presence in your life." The most surprising paragraph addressed the trust fund established for my parents. "You may question my provision for Amanda and Frank given their behavior. I consider this neither punishment nor reward, but practical compassion. The monthly amount provides basic security without enabling further destruction. However, should you eventually determine they deserve nothing, you have authority as trust administrator to dissolve this arrangement after 5 years. This decision belongs to you alone based on your judgment of their actions moving forward." I folded the letter carefully, Uncle Harold's wisdom wrapping around me like an embrace. He had given me not just financial security, but agency over my relationship with my parents, neither forcing reconciliation nor demanding permanent estrangement. "What happens now?" I asked Gerald. "Practically speaking, there will be transitions regarding property, business interests, and foundation responsibilities," he explained. "Emotionally speaking, that journey belongs uniquely to you." In the year following Uncle Harold's death, I completed my master's degree while learning to manage his business interests with guidance from Thomas. The educational foundation became my passion project, expanding scholarship opportunities for students from unstable homes. My parents signed the trust documents on the 29th day, accepting the monthly stipend and mandatory counseling. Occasional progress reports from the trust counselors suggested modest improvements in financial management, though gambling relapses occurred periodically. They attempted contact several times with awkward holiday cards and birthday messages that never acknowledged past wrongs directly. 6 months after the will reading, I moved from Uncle Harold's mansion to a comfortable condo overlooking the bay. The house held too many memories to be my permanent home. Instead, I converted it into a residential program for scholarship recipients needing housing stability, a fitting tribute to the man who provided exactly that for me. On the anniversary of Uncle Harold's death, I visited his favorite spot on the property, a stone bench beneath Japanese maple trees that turned brilliant red each fall. Sitting there with his letter reread and carefully refolded, I realized the greatest inheritance he left was not financial but philosophical. His unwavering belief that family transcends biology, that character matters more than circumstances, and that true wealth lies in how we treat others during their vulnerability. The 13-year-old girl abandoned by her parents had become a confident woman secure in her worth regardless of others' validation. The wound that once defined me had transformed into wisdom and empathy without sacrificing appropriate boundaries. I established limited contact with my parents. Birthday calls, occasional updates, but firm restrictions regarding financial discussions. Their initial attempts to manipulate gradually gave way to awkward but somewhat more authentic interactions. Whether genuine change or simply recognition of their limited options remained unclear, but I no longer needed their redemption to define my peace. Life continues to unfold with challenges and triumphs. Uncle Harold will not witness physically, yet his influence shapes my decisions daily. The integrity in business dealings, the commitment to education, the balance between compassion and boundaries. His legacy lives not just in buildings or bank accounts, but in values transmitted through living example. To those watching who have experienced family betrayal or abandonment, know that your worth never depended on those who left. Family can be created through choice rather than chance. The people who stay during difficult seasons reveal true connection more than shared genetics ever could. Have you created family beyond blood relatives? Share your experience in comments below. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe for more reflections on resilience and healing. Like and share to help others find encouragement in difficult family situations. Remember that your story continues beyond your worst chapters. Sometimes the most beautiful growth emerges from the deepest wounds. Thank you for witnessing my journey.